Welcome back into another edition of Side Session. Steven Strom, Jack McMullen, very special guest. It is Tommy Hutton, the longest tenured analyst in Marlins franchise history. Big news yesterday, Tommy. Do we say congratulations? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some of the texts and things that I got, sounded like a memorial. So I don't want it to be that. So yeah, congratulations is good.
Okay, so you'll work 60 games this year. This is going to be
Yeah.
the 28th and final season for you. But I want to start not where it all began for you with broadcasting, because we know you kind of bounced around with the Expos, with the Yankees. But how did you originally get the Marlins job?
Yeah, that's a very interesting story because at the time I was doing about 75 Toronto Blue Jays games on the network up there, and about 20 ESPN games. So that was my job from about 90 to 96. Also, during that time in the winter, one year there was a couple of years that they had senior baseball. I don't know if you are familiar with that, but they had teams down here in Florida of former major leaguers, and they had a team in West Palm Beach, and some of those games were televised, and they were on the Sunshine Network. And Gary Carter, one of my best friends, we were teammates. We worked a few of those games. He and I were partners, and so fast forward to '96. I'm up in Toronto, and I get a call from Gary, and who was the original Marlins color analyst with Jay Randolph. Jay Randolph and Gary did the first 4 years. So Gary calls me up in Toronto. He goes, "Hey, Hut," he goes, "they're going to make some changes on the TV side down here. You might want to pursue it, and maybe we could work together." I said, "Oh, that'd be cool. We could work together." So I started to make a few phone calls, talk to people at Sports Channel. Don Smiley was the president of the Marlins at that time. But the shocking part was, as I got midway through talking, I found out the changes were Gary Carter wasn't going to be back. So here now I'm applying for a job that my good friend had. One thing led to another. I got hired. Gary and I were good. We used to play golf all the time. So I don't want to say we ever laughed about it, but we did talk about it.
So you were in a situation where you probably didn't feel like you had to go leave and pursue something else in South Florida, because it sounds like it was a really darn good setup in Toronto and with ESPN.
Yeah.
But why was the move, uprooting your life and coming down to South Florida, the right decision for you?
Well, because we had maintained our house here. With all the other jobs that I had when I worked with the Yankees or even with Toronto, we have a home, still do, in Palm Beach County, and we've had the same home for 41 years.
Yeah.
So it made sense to maybe try to come home and do it that way, and it worked out.
I want to dial it back to the beginning of your broadcast career, because it is a fascinating start. You mentioned to us on the radio on Monday that you were released on a Sunday and you were in the booth on a Wednesday. What went into that a whole ordeal, that 72-hour stretch, as you pivoted from your playing career to your broadcast career?
Well, the general manager of the Expos at the time, John McHale, very well-respected man in baseball, he knew I had an interest in broadcasting. And when he brought me off the field, I'm sitting in the dugout. I got John McHale here. I have Dick Williams, who was the manager. I'm sitting in between, and they tell me they're going to release me. But John does say then, he says, if you'd like to remain with the club and work some games on the radio, we'd love to have you stay. So
They listened to you before. How did they pivot to that? Usually the people are asking to do coaching on office stuff.
Well, that's a good question, because the year before, I wouldn't suggest this for players now, because I was almost admitting my career was over, because the year before that spring training of my last year, I sent out letters. You guys are too young to know that letters are things you write and put in them.
Oh, yeah.
You say put a stamp on it. Yeah, yeah.
And stamps aren't free, right?
No, they were not. So I sent letters to just about every major league club. To someone, I went through books and found out someone with that club who maybe I knew or had a connection with, and I would send a letter and say, "Hey, my career's coming to an end. I have an interest in broadcasting," and I let it at that. I heard back from a couple teams, but John McHale certainly knew that, and that's why he pursued that angle, and it worked out great. Yeah, I think I told you, though, the other day, the worst part of it, as a player, you love, and especially when you don't play all the time, you love taking batting practice. That you got Group A and Group B. My group was hitting. I had like 6 more swings left, and I got called off the field, so I always thought I got cheated of my last 6 swings.
You got to take him at some point. It lost for a day.
You're right. Maybe that's what you do on your last game this year. All right, so you joined the franchise 5th season.
Yes.
Why do fans love the teal so much?
I don't know. It's remarkable because over the years, everybody I've talked to, and recently, since the Marlins have brought it back a little bit, everybody loves it. I think it fit. They love the cutoff sleeves, the teal.
Yeah.
And I think just at Pro Player Stadium, it just fit. And being outdoors, and people love the teal. Yeah, I do too. So I'm glad it's back on the weekends.
I'm not going to ask you who your favorites were of that era, but who do you feel like embodied that era of Marlins baseball from 97 to 03, like that stretch of Marlin baseball? Who do you feel like are the standout characters from that half-decade stretch?
I get confused with the years because I have to always look back. I think people really enjoyed the Ugla, Mike Jacobs.
Yeah.
They enjoyed that era of guys playing at Pro Player, and those are a couple guys that just stand out to me right there. Guys who were fun to watch and fun to be around.
Who is the most talented player that you feel like you've had the opportunity to call?
Oh, well, that's no question because he's going to go into the Hall of Fame, and if he's not a unanimous choice, it'd be ridiculous, is Miguel Cabrera. To see him as a kid come up and hit his first hit, a walk-off home run.
Welcome to the big league.
Yeah, in extra innings. So, yeah, to see that. Hanley Ramirez, extremely talented. Had his issues, but as a player, extremely talented.
Tommy Hutton with us now. We got a cavalcade of topics that we want to get to. Okay, Tommy, but you're a lifer. You are a baseball lifer, from a player to a broadcaster, and then you're let go and you're brought back. And you mentioned that yesterday. What do you remember from that call? Was it Bruce Sherman? Who called you to bring you back into the organization?
It was actually the people at Fox. I think it was Fox or Bally's. I get confused. It was there because over the years I always was employed by the TV, either Sports Channel or Fox or Bally's or FanDuel. I was never employed by the Marlins. So the first call was actually made by the people from them.
And what do you remember from the conversation?
Well, it's funny when at the time Todd Hollinsworth was doing the games, and what a terrific guy, and I was doing some pre and post at that time too. So I saw they let him go. And I called the people at FanDuel or Fox, I think it was Fox then, and I said, if you need someone to replace Todd on, just a part-time basis and if you need a veteran, you need a guy to come off the bench,
I would reached out first.
I would love to do that. And that's when I heard back to come back in the booth a little.
That step back into the booth and that first season that you were back in, even if it was just on a part-time basis, what was the overall sentiment from the fan base when you had the opportunity to speak with them? Because you told us on Monday the fan reaction and the fan, interaction that you get to have over the course of your broadcast career is your favorite part.
It is. I enjoy. Always enjoyed that the fans enjoyed what I had to say, and how I felt. They could tell how I felt. And to get back to that, pre and post is totally different than doing the game. It was fun to get back initially and do some pre-games and post-games, but pre-games and post-games are segmented into Block A, Block B, Block C, and you know what you're going to talk about. A game, you don't know what you're going to talk about. And I enjoy that aspect a lot better.
Gotcha. Why is having local broadcasters so salient?
For teams, I think because fans can really relate. It's as you guys know, working every day on radio when games are on, day in, night out. In the summertime, people, it's like a comfort zone. They can listen to you guys on the radio. They can watch TV, and they can hear familiar voices. And it's just a comfort zone, I think, for fans.
What do the best analysts possess on TV?
I think the best analysts don't talk too much. They first guess try to lay out situations. I always tried to, and I'll be honest, the game's different now, and there are not as many situations to lay out. You used to be able to talk about possible bunt, possible hit and run. Well, you don't see many bunts or hit and runs anymore, so it is different.
Yeah.
But to lay out situations, I always thought that was fun to do.
Building it up.
Yeah, and then if one of those situations materialize, boy, you sound like a genius. And and if they don't, you just move on. And then the other thing, I think I mentioned this yesterday, when a play happens, and the Rich Walsh used to put it the best. He, as a play-by-play guy on TV, is like the point guard. He hands it off to the analyst. So when the play happens and we see replay after replay, and now we have a chance to see many replays, try to explain what's happening during that replay, not just saying what's shown on the screen. And that's, I think, a key to a good analyst.
Tommy, one of the best parts of local TV and just local broadcasting in general for a baseball game in particular is the sidebars, the tangents that you can get off on. Do you have a favorite recurring sidebar or tangent that you would ever get into with Rich or anybody else?
Well, we had a whole Dan Ugla situation. We had I went off the one time, and when they changed the rule on the catcher at home plate, blocking the flow
rule. Yeah.
We were doing the game when that happened with Scott Cousins.
Yeah.
Ran over Buster Posey in San Francisco. But with that rule change and the play, I think it was against Cincinnati, and Jeff Mathis was the catcher, and Mike Redmond was the manager, and the call was overturned. And to me, that's not baseball. I have to admit, I think I lost it a little bit there.
But you said it might have lose you a little bit. You said it's good for the soul.
It is. It gets it out. It gets it out. I don't have ulcers.
That's good.
I'm on no medications. I'm fine.
For you.
What does the dream 2026 final season look like or sound like for you?
Just to go about my business and do my work and do my prep work. And I've already got some work done for the Colorado Rockies and the White Sox, the first series. Just go about it the same way I always have. I'm sure I'll see some people when visiting clubs come to town. Looking forward to seeing it. I have the opportunity, and again, I thank not only the Marlins but also the people at FanDuel, Bally's, now Major League Baseball, to choose the games that I work, the 60 out of the 81 home games. So I go through the schedule. Yeah, I want to work Cincinnati series because I was a player when Terry Francona came up. So I've known Tito for years. I want to see Tito. So I want to work that series. I'd love to work the White Sox series because Len Casper's doing their radio. And always great to see Len. So that's how I kind of picked out the schedule.
You have so many friends around baseball, and I'm sure that you were inundated with texts when the news came out on Monday that this was going to be your final year. But you mentioned soaking up the opportunity to see all of your friends around baseball in 2026. I know you're still going to golf with plenty of them in 2027 and beyond, but in 26, having all of those people come into the booth and, thank you just for being you around baseball. What's that going to mean to you?
That's good. That's going to mean a lot. I'm thinking right now of the Rockies coming to town.
Yeah.
And I remember when he first started and his career has really taken off. He's gotten good. He does a lot of things. When the Rockies came to town a few years ago, Ryan Spielborg came into the booth and started talking to us about broadcasting and things to do. And, we mentioned some things for him. And so I look forward to seeing him and guys like that. I got a text from Joe Simpson with the Atlanta Braves. I've known Joe forever. And so things like that. It'll be fun to see those guys.
Let me ask you, on field, what are you most excited to watch with the 26 Marlins?
I'm excited to watch the progress of Jacob Marcy.
Cool.
I'd love to see some progression out of Gus. See if the Gus bus can move a little forward and do well. And also Owen Casey, because I don't know a lot about him. I texted John Shambi when the Marlins acquired Owen Casey and wanted to get a little info on him. So I'm anxious to see him.
I got two quick ones. Who's our team MVP this year?
I'm going to go with nope. Don't take offense, Kyle Stowers, but I'm going to go with Jacob Marcy.
Cool. I think that's a hot topic.
Yeah.
Some people, when they're done doing this, they never want to watch baseball again. They never want to go near a scorebook. They don't want to be involved at all. They want to focus on family. Do you have any interest in coming back and helping out with the Marlins as like an ambassador or whatever it may be? Or are you ready to go off in the sunset?
No, I would always have interest
open
in
to
that.
that?
Yeah, no, I could never eliminate baseball from my life. That's I don't know if I'll keep score every game, and I won't do my notes. And I have everybody has a way of doing their notes.
Yeah.
And I've done it for years, and I'm not going to change these little sheets, these little yellow sheets, and I won't do that.
Sure.
But I mean, all my as my two sons were growing up, all of my metaphors to their life were baseball related.
There you go. That's a true baseball lifer, to Steven's point.
Yeah.
I've got one last one for you. Can you make a promise to us in 27 and beyond? You still text us to the radio?
Oh,
'Cause
sure.
It's like they're our favorite text.
It is. It really is nice when you say.
Yeah. I listen, like I like sometimes. See, don't tell Kyle.
Yeah, you're good.
Don't tell.
We're not on camera. Go ahead.
You guys know more stuff than he does. So sometimes I would listen to Steven on pregame, and I would get a lot of information.
Sure.
I'd get the little yellow sheet out and write it down.
We're around all.
He would always send me a text. It's a show. Good show. Very good. Tommy, thank you so much for getting up early and getting over here for us. And, we wish you just, again, the victory lap, all of it. You have been so good to me and Jack, for me since day one, and I know for Jack as well. And you are a staple of this franchise, and we really do
Oh,
appreciate it.
hey, Steven. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Right at you, Tommy.
All right.